Hi and welcome back to the channel. It's good to see you all again, and first of all I'd just like to say a quick thank you to all my new subscribers, well, to all my subscribers, but in particular those that have subscribed in the last few months. The numbers have really shot up fast, and I'm well, fast approaching 2,500, which is amazing, frankly. I can't get over it. So, as I say, once again, thank you very, very, very much to all of you for supporting the channel and keep watching my videos. So, yeah, thank you. Anyway, what I'd like to talk about this time is a bit of a classic, Herbie Hancock, Takin Off. Now, this album here, not this specific one, but let me actually get the specific one. This specific one. But take it out of its outer sleeve. This specific album was one of the first, if not the first, jazz albums I ever had. I think one of the first, but it was one of those albums that got me into jazz. I was working in retail, hi-fi retail, back in the early 80s. Absolute Sound and Video down in Basingstoke in Hampshire, which was sort of subsequently rebranded as Audio T, and I believe the shop is still there, 4 Feathers Lane, I think it was. Anyway, I was managing that, and took on a new member of staff, a young guy called Hugh. Honestly, I haven't seen him since then, and can't remember his surname. I think it might have been Hugh Jackson, but anyway, Hugh, if you're watching, get in touch. It would be great to catch up. But he was into his jazz, and I mean, I was only in my early 20s at the time, or early mid-20s, and I'd swear this is a recommendation from him. Now, this particular copy of mine is a 1986 issue, so I would have bought this new back in the day. On the Blue Note label. Now, it's, interestingly enough, direct metal mastered, 1986 EMI Pathé Marconi. So I'm not sure if this was technically a French issue, but I've got a few of these around that time. So I just, yeah, frankly, I honestly don't know whether this was what was typically being sold in the UK at the time, but they were certainly made in France, and direct metal mastered. And of course, in the 80s, direct metal mastered, it was all, you know, they looked super flat, super clean, super shiny, and they had that kind of 80s sort of super clean sound. And it's only subsequently that, reading down here, I noticed the digital transfer by Ron McMaster, the infamous Ron McMaster. And, you know, I've loved this album for decades and decades. And what's prompted this review is, and this was released last year, but it's still available, the Blue Note Classic Series reissue of Herbie Hancock, Takin Off. Now, the interesting thing about this is this is all analog from the original tapes, cut by Kevin Gray at and pressed at Optimal in Germany. So, you know, to all intents and purposes, this is an audiophile pressing. It's from the original tapes. It's cut by someone who's unquestionably one of the greatest mastering engineers, cutting engineers in current times, and you know, well pressed. And let's say it's, you know, it's regular vinyl, but it's nice regular vinyl, well pressed. Really, I haven't got a single complaint with this. And at the price, which is, you can pick them up here in the UK for around £20 to £25 retail price. I mean, it's an absolute steal. It's flat as a pancake. it's just a very, 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 very beautiful pressing. So let's just talk a little bit about the album and a bit about the sound. So how do they sound different? How do they compare? Right. And you've got to bear in mind that this has been a very, very, very much loved record for about 40 years, let's say. And then this one comes along. So it doesn't take long. It really doesn't take long to work out what's going on. So I played this through, and frankly, it's a little bit jangly, a little bit ratty sounding. But the bass is really nice and tight and tuneful. And that's, I think that's kind of quite a feature of sort of 80s kind of cuts. They might sound a bit noisy at the top, a bit digital, so to speak. But the bass, it's sort of tight and clean. And I'd liken it to Class D power amplifiers. Anyone who's heard a Class D power amplifier will know that, you can't deny it. The bass is awesome. Awesome in an impressive way. Awesome in a sort of shiny, slap you in the face kind of way. Really tight, really controlled. And that's what this sounds like. The bass is really tight, really controlled. And but everything else is a little bit ratty and a little bit not, just a little bit aggressive. So you put this on, and straight away, the Watermelon Man track 1, it's just an absolute classic. It's got to be one of the all-time greatest, most accessible, beautiful jazz tracks. So from the word go, the piano's got a sort of much more colour, deeper, more body to it. The horns, the trumpet and the saxophone are just in another league. They sound far, far, far nicer. They've got great colour and texture. How the soundstage is, you've got, let's have a look. You've got Freddie Hubbard on trumpet on the left. Behind him, you have Herbie Hancock on the piano. Centrally, you've got Butch Warren on bass. And then at the right rear, Billy Higgins on drums. And the right foreground, Dexter Gordon on tenor sax. And the bass is fuller on this than on the 80s pressing. And at first you might think, everything's better, that the bass isn't quite as good. But I think give it 5 minutes, give your ears time to adjust, and actually you realise that the bass is the whole is actually far better. In a way, this sounds slower than when you put this on, and it's that kind of 80s thing of just squeaky clean kind of production, very tight, but it actually kind of falsely speeds the whole tempo of the piece up, or it seems to energetically, because you're losing the reverb tails, so everything's a little bit clipped, and it sounds artificially fast. The pace is more relaxed on this. The piano's more rounded. There's more colour. The bass is fuller. The drums are just beautifully sort of, the cymbals just shimmer. It's all round just beautiful. Three Bags Full, which is the second track. Again, if you don't know the album, it's got a lot of the feel of Kind of Blue, Miles Davis's Kind of Blue album. This was 3 years after that. And it's definitely kind of reminiscent of that sort of that album. Empty Pockets, that's the last track on side one. It's more of a sort of a bluesy jazz piece. Again, really, really beautiful track. The whole album is beautiful. Turn It Over, The Maze, side 2 is just fantastic. I mean, it sort of starts with this deep, sort of pensive, sort of thought-provoking piano. And then just the horns come in, just big, loaded with reverb. It sounds so 60s. It's just amazing. And the trumpet just soars and sort of sears like it's, you know, a burning passion to it, but it doesn't screech. It's not scratchy, it's not horrible. Drifting, again, really kind of soulful swinging groove. Freddie Hubbard plays a flugelhorn on this track, so there's a sort of slightly more echoey softness to the horns. And the you know, the bass just sort of rolls through, and the piano and the piano and the drums really sort of very percussively sort of set the time. And then Alone and I, very, very kind of beautiful, slow, laid-back ballad. I've just got all poetic here because I wrote on some notes. I just wrote that the sax is just sensual, and the piano is sort of pensive. Delicate drums, beautiful blossoming, breathing bass, and timeless trumpet. So there we are. Finish up on a sort of a poetic note. But it's just, you know, that's what this album is. It is absolutely beautiful. It is one of the all-time classic jazz albums of all time. It really, really is. And as I say, I've had this copy for 40 years, 35 to 40 years. And it's served me very, very, very well. Can't argue with it at all, really, in that respect. But this one comes out, I think it was last year or the year before it was released, on the Blue Note Classic Series label, which I think they're all still available. They're not limited editions or anything like that, but they are produced in absolute perfect, audiophile style. You really couldn't want more. Kevin Gray's phenomenal mastering engineer, definitely in my top 2 or 3. In the top handful of mastering engineers in the world, in my opinion. And he's cut this from tape, and to get all that for less than £25 or around £25, it's a no-brainer, an absolute no-brainer. 10 out of 10. There's nothing more you could ask for, really. There really isn't. And on that note, I will say, if you haven't heard this album, I would say look it up on Spotify or Tidal or Qbuzz or something and have a listen. But honestly, you're going to like it. I can't imagine anyone not liking this. I mean, I'd say it's more accessible an album than Kind of Blue, to be perfectly honest. It's absolutely beautiful. One of the albums that got me into jazz. Thank you, Huey. And for this amount of money, it's an absolute no-brainer purchase. You must buy. So, there we go. I will say cheerio on that note, and look forward to see you again soon. Thanks very much. Goodbye. Bye.